Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Round 1.
Steve is one of the most unique characters on the roster. As a boxer, he lacks kicks, for the most part, with his kick buttons instead performing evasive weaves, sways, ducks, and spins. His launches also tend to be quite slow. Instead, he is completely designed around landing counter hits. Boasting unique movement options and stance cancels to keep his offense varied and unpredictable, Steve's game plan is to pepper the opponent with a constant barrage of low-risk, low-reward pokes, slowly chipping away at their health bar, before capitalizing on their frustration with well-timed counter-hit moves and evasive maneuvers for big damage. With some of the most damaging combos in the game, coupled with long-reaching wall carry that leads to a fearsome wall game, Steve excels at giving opponents just enough rope to hang themselves with. Being completely focused around landing counter punches, Steve has unquestionably the best collection of counter hit moves in the game. Incredible safety on block and whiff due to his variety of stance cancels. Surprising range for a boxer, combined with his excellent safety, means he controls space very well. Powerful keep out and panic moves to keep overly aggressive opponents in check. Unique evasive and movement options, allowing Steve to easily close the gap and further punish opponents who dare to press buttons. With some of the best homing moves in the game, and good tracking to both sides on many of his regular moves, Steve is very hard to successfully sidestep against. Through his relentless string and cancel based pressure, Steve can mask his many low pokes, frustrating the opponent into pressing buttons and playing straight into his counter hit strategy. Some of the most damaging combos in the game, together with excellent wall carry, means Steve really puts on the hurt in juggles. At the wall, Steve has access to powerful 50-50s, and can even wall splat the opponent when he has his back to the wall through his unique sway throw. Steve's launchers are either slow and have poor range, or can only be accessed out of a stance, which means he can't launch punish moves that the rest of the cast can. Similarly, Steve struggles to launch punish whiffs, having to make do with normal attacks. Lacks power lows and has a mediocre throw game, meaning he can struggle to make a comeback when at a life deficit. While Steve's tools in the mid-range cover a lot of space, they aren't particularly threatening. He needs to be up close to deal good damage. Steve struggles with highly evasive characters, who can simply slip under many of his best moves. Being a boxer, nearly all of Steve's moves are punches. This makes him particularly susceptible to punch parries.
Round 2.
Before going into Steve's move list, it's first necessary to understand his stances, as they are at the core of his game plan. Steve has 7 stances in total: flicker, peekaboo, ducking, left weave, right weave, sway, albatross. Although the latter 5 are probably better thought of as unique evasive maneuvers and movement options, while flicker and peekaboo serve as Steve's defensive and offensive stances respectively. Let's start by analysing perhaps his most iconic stance, flicker. Flicker stance is centered around safety, space control, and baiting counter hits. he can access it manually by pressing back 3+4, or cancel into it by holding back from some of his moves. These are back 1, quarter circle forward 1, down forward 1-2-1, 1-2-1, 1 down 1 and 1-1 down 1, 2-1, forward 2-1, left weave 1 forward 1-1, peekaboo back 1-1-2-1, and flicker jabs. Cancelling into flicker drastically reduces their recovery, making Steve safe on block and difficult to whiff punish on certain key spacing and keep out moves such as back 1 and quarter circle forward 1. Flicker used to be an absolute nightmare to deal with in some previous Tekken games, but with nearly each new iteration, it's been made easier to whiff punish moves that cancel into flicker. And while it's still hard, it isn't literally impossible anymore like it was in Tekken 4. Just to note, if you record Steve in training mode going into flicker, he won't be able to block even if you hold back during the recording. This isn't an accurate reflection of what actually happens in the game. While manual flicker and peekaboo do have some startup before their auto guard kicks in, for moves cancelled into them, the guard is immediate once they enter the stance. The record function is just bugged when it comes to certain stances with auto guard, and has been ever since Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Email Harada. With that out the way, let's now take a look at all of Steve's flicker moves. Flicker jabs are very fast at 12 frames, making them good at interrupting the opponent for a counter hit. Steve can flicker jab up to 3 times, and continue to hold back to stay in flicker. If you wait until just after the jab connects, while continuing to hold back, press 3+4 to go into albatross spin. We'll cover this in more detail later. Flicker 1 albatross 2 also combos on counter hit, and you can confirm in between hits whether to finish the string or dart in for continued pressure. Flicker 1 down +1 is a damaging string that combos on counter hit and leads to guaranteed follow-ups in down back 2 or forward forward 2, which floor breaks on Forgotten Realm for a full combo. Flicker 1 down 1 is also neutral on block, allowing Steve to continue his pressure game. Beware that both hits are high though, so can be crouched or crushed. If the second hit connects by itself on counter hit, it leads to a full combo. This is quite risky on whiff as it is easy to punish, but a good option on block if you feel the opponent may retaliate. Finally, the second hit of Flicker 1 down 1 is a screw starter. As well as being an essential part of many of Steve's combos, it will also screw opponents who mash on low crush moves like hop kick when under pressure. Flicker 1 forward 1 ends in a mid, which makes it safer, but less rewarding, and on block your turn is effectively over at -5. Though, as we'll see soon, Steve has many strong high crush options, and also a punch parry which can be used to punish opponents who try to down forward 1. If the second hit connects by itself on counter hit, it floors the opponent at Steve's feet for a guaranteed forward forward 2. Both Flicker 1 down 1 and forward 1 can be delayed, and still combo on counter hit, allowing them to be counter hit confirmed, and also to punish opponents who try to interrupt. Flicker back 2 is one of the best power crushers in the game. It is safe on block, comes out very fast, and has excellent range, allowing Steve to muscle through attempted whiff punishes or retaliation on block. Also, when combined with manual Flicker's backstep, it can be an effective tool to bait and punish whiffs. On hit, this leads to a free forward forward 2, and if your execution is really on point, you can even combo out of this. Thanks to ASAP Marco for figuring this out. I also highly recommend checking out this how-to tutorial by CutCC. Although, do note that this combo will only work if the flicker back 2 connected at close range. This move's biggest weakness is that it is high, and can be stepped to the right. All the flicker moves listed so far have started with a high. If opponents try to slip under, Flicker 2 is a chunky, safe mid that guarantees a down back 2 for a total of 37 damage. Beware though that it is quite slow to come out and can be stepped to the right. After any of his flicker jabs, Steve can also go into a mid that combos on counter. This looks similar to Flicker 2 and behaves the same on hit, but on block it's -16, so best avoided, especially since you have a safe mid extension in Flicker 1 forward 1. Flicker 1+2 is a throw, which can be useful given all the powerful counter hit options from Flicker. However, it is his only throw from this stance, so opponents just need to press 1+2 to break it. Given Steve's numerous entry options into Flicker though, this can still catch opponents by surprise. This has strong Okizeme options afterwards. An immediate Sonic Fang will tag the opponent if they try to stand or do get-up kicks. On the floor, down back 2 can be evaded by side roll right, but down 1+2 will catch every option. To exit Flicker, Steve can either perform a Flicker move, crouch cancel, and also go into any of his evasive maneuvers starting from his kick buttons. Due to all of his options out of Flicker, opponents often freeze up when they see a move like back 1, even at mid-range. We'll cover back 1 in detail in the next section. Ducking allows Steve to move forward offensively while completely going under highs, and so is his most important evasive maneuver. Ducking is the backbone of Steve's offense. It can be done by pressing either forward or down forward, +3 or 4, and can be used to close space quickly through repeated cancels. The best way to do this is to tap down forward 3 or down forward 4, and then hold down back until you see Steve enter a crouch. This is called a duck cancel. Practice this until Steve is moving forward fluidly, with no visible crouch animation. This functions like a slower but more evasive wave dash, since it completely goes under highs while moving Steve forward. After a duck cancel, Steve has access to his incredible moves from crouching, which we'll go into more detail later, as well as of course duck moves, which are done by simply pressing a button anytime during the duck. Duck 2 is good to occasionally throw out, since it will launch badly timed backdash cancels and highs. It is also one of the best responses in the game to Akuma's fireballs. However, at -14, and with reduced pushback from previous games, this is quite punishable. Duck 1 doesn't launch, but it is safe on block. At -7, you do effectively give up your turn, but against opponents who predictably try to down forward 1 or jab you, this can be a good setup for a back 1+2 punch parry. On normal hit, the opponent goes into a stun, allowing Steve to get in a forward 2. This can be a little tricky to land, so make sure to hold down the second forward input so that Steve dashes a bit before doing forward 2. On counter hit, this will also flip the opponent up in the air for a combo. Remember to use manual flicker into 1 down 1 so the opponent isn't back turned when you combo. Duck 1+2 to repeated 1-2s, sometimes referred to as the massaging string, should only ever be used in combos, since on block it pushes the opponent back while Steve continues to punch air, basically giving them a free whiff punish. Duck forward 2 is a quick, safe high that knocks down on normal hit and combos on counter hit. This move is another of Steve's primary screw starters and combos, and also self-cancels to duck by simply doing it again during the move's animation, or alternatively, weaves and sway. Duck forward 2 to another duck forward 2 will beat out any move that is 13 frames or slower, which tend to be mids, but will lose to moves that are 11 frames or faster, which are almost universally highs. If the opponent is using highs to intercept, go into a duck cancel and punish with a while standing move. If they use a mid, enjoy your counter hit combo. This will also put common low crush panic moves, such as hop kick, into a screw state for a combo. Slipping under highs and counter hitting mids is a big part of Steve's overall game plan. A common response to Steve's pressure is to down jab, since it is both fast and goes under highs. If you notice the opponent often resorting to this, try a low parry option select. Straight after your duck cancel, tap down forward while in full crouch, then hold back or backdash to stand guard. Down jabs come out very fast in just 10 frames, but you can use this against them, since if you do the inputs for a low parry, you can still stand in time to guard other common panic moves like hop kick, punishing both with a single series of inputs. Although beware that the low parry option select will lose to fast mids like down forward 1, so be sure to vary your offense and stay unpredictable. With all these varied pressure options leading to big potential damage, the opponent will often freeze up, allowing Steve to go in for an extended duck mix-up. By holding forward and a kick button while ducking, Steve will enter extended duck, which gives a blue flash to duck 1, duck 2, and duck forward 2. As well as boosting their damage, it also gives the moves exciting new properties. Extended Duck 2 remains the same on block, but now becomes a Class 1 launcher for colossal damage. Extended Duck 1 also remains the same on block, but leads to a knockdown state similar to Flicker Back 2, that leads to a free Forward 2. Or if you're feeling confident in your execution, a duck cancel to while standing 1-2 for more damage, which is especially effective on the temple stage as it leads to a floor break and combo. Though it is important to note that this combo will not connect on an opponent who was crouching. Bear this in mind for the extended duck mix-up, which we'll look at in just a moment. And if your execution is really on point, you can also land the same combo from Flicker Back 2. Extended Duck Forward 2 on normal hit will lead to the same stun and combo as if it were a counter hit. And a new addition to Tekken 7 is that it breaks standing guard, leading to a free Duck Forward +2 for a knockdown and Okizeme with Albatross spin, or if you're feeling confident in your duck cancel execution, a while standing 1-2 for more damage, plus frames, and forced crouch. This effectively gives Steve a 50-50 mix-up from extended duck, which is incredible for such a pressure-based character. Now, bear in mind that the opponent needs to be well and truly conditioned before you start doing extended duck mix-ups. But if you mix up your approach well and they're on the defensive, by the time they realize what's going on, they'll already be in the unenviable position of having to choose between a safe, damaging mid and a high guard break. A good way to flow seamlessly into duck mix-ups from close range pressure is by directly cancelling into duck from a move. Steve can also cancel into his other evasive maneuvers, weave and sway. Here are all the moves which Steve can cancel into evasive maneuvers. 1-1, 1-2, 1-1-2, 1-2-1, 1-2-1-2, down forward 1, down forward 1-2, which actually cancels the second hit before it comes out, down forward 1-2, forward 1+2. By the way, this move is hot garbage, so let's never speak of it again. Down forward 2, down 2-1, down 2 neutral 1, duck forward 2, extended duck forward 2, while standing 1-1, and while standing 2. Since many of these strings have extensions or can be cancelled into flicker or peekaboo to sustain pressure, they are an effective way of slipping in to apply duck mix-ups. Just be sure to cover your approach, since if you get too predictable, ducking in can easily be punished with a launching mid. Let's now look at another evasive maneuver, Steve's weaves. Weaves are evasive maneuvers that, broadly speaking, can be used like sidesteps, but also have a variety of unique applications. 3 move Steve to the left, and 4 to the right. You can use this after a sidestep in the same direction to create a super sidestep, which is more evasive, and in some situations will even take you to the opponent's back. Fortunately, Steve can't get an infinite anymore from this, like in his glory days from Tekken 5.0. Compared to sidestep, during a weave, Steve will also lower his head, making it go under jab strings more consistently. Weaves are a bigger commitment though, as unlike sidesteps, you can't hold back to guard cancel. The general rule for sidesteps in Tekken 7 is, if you're -5 or over, your sidestep won't work. This rule also applies to weaves. During flicker or peekaboo stance, Steve can't sidestep, but he can weave at any time. This makes it useful to evade linear moves such as down forward 1 or down jab. Steve's moves differ depending on whether he weaved left or right. Left weave 1-1 is a natural combo mid-mid string that is his best whiff punisher from a weave. It is, however, -13 on block. This is analogous to right weave 2, which does less damage but has better range, and is also -13. Both of these moves wall splat for big damage. From a left weave, Steve can also do 1 forward 1-1. This is also a natural combo, and if you hold back at the end of the string, you go into flicker stance at +4. The last hit of the string is unfortunately high, so if the opponent is aware of this, don't finish the string. However, due to the flicker cancel, this is quite hard to launch punish. So depending on how confident you feel, you might want to go for a while standing 4 punish or equivalent. From both left weave and right weave, Steve can also go into a shoulder barge by pressing 2 or 1 respectively. This continues to slip under jab strings, and both barge strings, 3-2-1 or 4-1-2, will combo on counter hit, even when slightly delayed, making them counter hit confirmable. Combined with their evasive properties, this makes them very powerful panic moves. 4-1-2 in particular leads to a very damaging combo, but is unsafe at -13. 3-2-1 doesn't lead to a combo, but is safe and can be a decent setup for a punch parry. Since these strings can be confirmed on counter hit, 4-1-2, due to its huge damage potential, is more useful, and in general, one of the best panic moves in the game. After a shoulder barge, Steve can also hold forward to go into peekaboo stance at neutral frames. If you sense the opponent is going to press buttons, simply finish the barge string. 4-1-2 will of course launch, and 3-2-1 on counter hit gives a free grounded down 1+2 for a total of 43 damage. Most characters, when in crouch, can only sidestep in one direction, which is to the background. Which way that is depends on what side of the screen you're on. Since Steve has weaves designated to his kick buttons, he can move laterally in either direction, even while crouching. This is particularly useful after moves that leave Steve in crouch, like down 1. Similarly, when on the receiving end of an attack that leaves Steve in full crouch, he has more options than other characters. Weaves can also be cancelled into from a variety of moves such as 1-2-1, down forward 1, or down 2-1, but this isn't generally recommended as a cancelled weave doesn't move laterally anymore. They can be decent ways to enter barge pressure, but since the range is so poor, they're easy to backdash and whiff punish. Weaves can also cancel into ducks and sway, simply by entering forward plus kick or back plus kick after a weave. Weave into sway is kind of useless, but a weave into duck 2 can be a useful whiff punisher after evading a move with a lot of recovery, since duck moves come out faster after a weave. Let's now look at the last evasive maneuver, the sway. Sway is done by performing back 3 or back 4. Like ducks and weaves, they can be performed anytime during flicker or peekaboo, or after strings and moves that cancel into evasive maneuvers. Like ducking, sway goes completely under any highs, but doesn't move Steve forward. Sway 1 is a mid that is at worst -1 on block, and also forces the opponent into crouch. But since Steve moves his head back to standing before attacking, he's vulnerable to high attacks before the hitbox becomes active. With Sway 2 on the other hand, Steve remains in an evasive position and punches the air above him, cleanly beating any highs for a big combo. This is a huge commitment though, as it leaves Steve completely open and has basically zero range. Outside of walls, Sway is highly situational and mainly just used for style points. When at the wall though, it is massively threatening and replaces ducking as the go-to offensive evasive maneuver. This is due to Steve's 1+2 throw from a Sway, which is sort of like a vestigial remnant from the Tekken 4 position change system. Despite being the only throw from Sway, it comes out in just 10 frames, and as such is quite hard to break. If Steve pushes you into a wall, he gets a free 1-1-2 for a total of 30 damage, and can mix up the Sway throw with Sway 1. On counter hit, this grants Steve a free forward 2, though this isn't consistent at certain angles and against small characters. Down 1+2 is a considerably easier and more consistent follow-up, but does less damage. Sway also makes Steve dangerous when his back is to the wall. If Steve switches sides with the opponent by holding back after the Sway throw, he has enough advantage to land a quarter circle forward 1 to a full wall combo. In fact, as long as Steve spins the opponent 90 degrees or more, he can get a quarter circle forward 1 in. Let's now take a look at Steve's main offensive stance, peekaboo. While flicker focuses on defense and space control, peekaboo is all about aggression and pressure. In peekaboo, Steve has a powerful arsenal of chipping lows to frustrate the opponent, jailing delayable strings to catch them out when they press buttons, and fast, powerful mids to punish them for ducking. Steve can enter peekaboo by holding forward after the following moves and strings: back 1-2, back 1 down 2, 1-2-1, 2-1, forward 2-1, right weave 1, left weave 2, albatross spin, double albatross spin, fully crouched down forward 1, though this is an automatic transition on hit or block, so you don't need to hold forward. Once in peekaboo, down 1 is your go-to for pressuring the opponent, and is basically the same as his fully crouched down forward 1. This is a low that goes under highs, has surprisingly good tracking to both sides, leaves Steve at +2 on hit, and is only -12 on block, meaning it can't be launched punished by any character. Even Akuma's down jabs, which can lead to a combo when he has meter, can't reach it due to pushback. This should be used anytime the opponent freezes up or hesitates, to chip away at their health bar while keeping Steve at an advantage. Against turtles, you can also try the 1+2 grab, which is quite damaging and looks very cool, but is easy to break since it's his only throw from peekaboo. The okizeme options from this are quite weak, but you can chase them down with albatross mix-ups or running 2. More on these later. 2 is used when you think the opponent is going to retaliate. On counter hit, it leads to a combo, and also Sabaki's clean through punches, even when Steve is at frame disadvantage. Since this is safe on block, you can bully opponents with just this move alone. On hit, nothing is guaranteed, but the opponent is left right by Steve's feet for some good okizeme. Be careful though, that since they're left off axis, a lot of strings and lows will whiff. So it's recommended to mix up between down forward 2, which will counter hit any attempts at get up kicks for a combo, and grounded down 1+2, which will catch anything they try to do on the floor, as well as serving as a quick low poke if they stand up. Peekaboo 2 is also a homing move, though trying to sidestep Steve when he's in Peekaboo generally isn't a good idea, since many of his key moves in this stance either track sidestep left, sidestep right, or both. Don't get too predictable with Peekaboo 2 though, as it is high, has very short range, and will only blow through punches, not kicks, elbows, or shoulders. Also, some moves like Dragunov's Running 2 are an exception. 1-2 is neutral on block and has excellent range for a fast 13-frame jab string, making it useful to close the distance against backdashers. Though it can be stepped to the right quite easily. The mid-delayable string ender, 1-2-1, while on safe on block at -13, tracks well, and leads to a nice chunk of damage while forcing crouch at +8 on opponents who may be crouching in anticipation of down 1. On counter hit, you get a free down 1 against opponents who press buttons. Forward 1+2 is one of the less useful moves from Peekaboo. It's quite slow for a high at 16 frames, and only does 5 damage on hit. But it tracks well, forces opponents towards the wall, and gives Steve a whopping +6 on block. Though with a bit of pushback, which means that some of Steve's best tools from Peekaboo are now very easy to backdash. So this is best used at the wall if you want some serious plus frames to work with. Bizarrely, on hit or counter hit, this actually gives less advantage at +4. Down 2 is a long range low that'll catch backdashers. Although it is slow enough to be reactable to, and has terrible tracking, it can catch players off guard, goes under highs during the entire animation, and leads to a big combo on counter hit if they were mashing out a jab string. On hit, this leaves Steve in full crouch and at +7, which means a while standing 2 will counter hit launch anything the opponent does, except for a rage art, in which case counter hit confirm while standing 1 into while standing 1-2. We'll go into this in more detail in the next section. On block, Peekaboo down 2 is only -12, which means opponents should try to reactionary down parry this instead of blocking it. Steve has powerful mids to mix up his Peekaboo down 1 with. Down forward 1-2 is a strong mid option, being a natural combo, safe on block, and leading to a mini combo with down back 2 on hit. This will consistently catch sidestep right, and while it can be stepped to the left, this is quite difficult. And after a Peekaboo down 1, this will also beat out hop kick attempts, which is a common reaction at lower levels of play to repeated down 1s. On a floated opponent, the second hit will put them in a screw state for a combo. On block, many opponents tend to retaliate, so a punch parry will punish their attempts to jab or down forward 1 you. Beware that the second hit is high, so can be ducked and launched, but you can catch players out with down forward 1-1, which is a mid-mid natural combo. This is unsafe on block at -10, but opponents may be hesitant to punish you due to the threat of down forward 1-1-2-1. The last 3 hits of this string are a natural combo on counter hit, and give a free down back 2 follow-up for a whopping 64 points of damage, which is basically equivalent to a full juggle. The second and third hits can also be delayed to bait attempted button presses. However, they cease to become comboable on counter hit if you delay. Beware that this string is -13 on block, so it's recommended to counter hit confirm from down forward 1-1-2, which is -11. Note that the final 2 hits of this string jail, so with the correct timing, opponents can option select blocking down forward 1-1-2-1 and also punishing down forward 1-1-2. Not many players know this though. Also, the down forward 1-1 and its string extensions can be sidestep left for a deep sidestep combo, but between down 1, 2, down forward 1-1, 1-2, and forward 2-1, which all catch sidestep left, opponents won't be doing this often. Down forward 2 is just 1 frame slower than down forward 1, but leads to a launcher. And since it's an elbow, goes through parries, which is very useful against opponents like Asuka. Though Jin and Geese can still parry this. On block, it is -10, so can only be punished by jabs, and it also has very poor tracking. Up forward 2 is another mid-launcher, but slower than down forward 2 and launch punishable on block at -15. This also has very poor tracking. As you can guess though, with its Shoryuken type animation, it somewhat makes up for these flaws with its evasive properties. As you can see, it goes under many highs, and also crushes lows. Up forward 2 is sometimes used as a hard call-out against low jabs, which is quite a common reaction to peekaboo pressure. A safer way to get around down jab is by weaving around them. Or forward 2. Forward 2 is a mid with huge range that goes under highs in its earlier frames. This is fairly reliable when used against highs with small hitboxes like jabs, but not all highs. It will consistently go under low jabs though. This makes it the go-to option to beat down jabs without having to commit to up forward 2 or weaves. This also wall splats, making it very dangerous by the wall. The downside is that it is quite slow at 19 frames, can be sidestepped to the right, and is -13 on block, though due to pushback it is unpunishable outside of walls. New to Tekken 7, it now has a natural comboing mid string extension in forward 2-1, which leaves Steve at +1 back in normal stance, albeit with quite a bit of pushback, though again this is useful by the wall. Unfortunately though, if you finish this string, you can't wall combo anymore from the forward 2 splat. Forward 2-1 can be interrupted between the hits with any move that is 15 frames or faster. If you anticipate the opponent will do this, bait out their move with forward 2 by itself, then whiff punish. Back 1-1-2-1 is a long, delayable, safe string that ends in flicker stance. It has surprising range, so can be used to chase down opponents who have backdashed out of peekaboo for continued pressure. The second hit in this string is high, which can be ducked and launched punished, but this is very tight. Unless you're feeling supremely confident, it's generally recommended to go for your fastest while standing punisher here. Back 2 is an evasive backswing blow mid. This is best avoided as it isn't actually that good at evading moves, is quite unsafe at -14, and has pretty poor tracking. Steve can also manually enter peekaboo with forward 3+4. This is particularly useful with long-range moves like peekaboo 1-2 or forward 2. Also, you can make use of peekaboo up forward 2 as a long-range whiff punishing launcher, which is something that Steve sorely lacks. However, your execution will need to be on point, and if you mess up, you risk getting launched. As with flicker, peekaboo can be cancelled into a crouch with down back, though not immediately from manual entry like flicker. And you also have access to all of his evasive maneuvers like duck, weave, and sway. Finally, Steve can directly transition into peekaboo stance by holding forward during an albatross or double albatross spin. This brings us on nicely to the last movement option accessed by Steve's kick buttons. The albatross spin is performed with 3+4. It can be done from both standing, crouching, peekaboo stance, and flicker after 1, 2, or 3 jabs. It cannot be performed out of weave, sway, or duck. Albatross 2 is a mid that covers a huge amount of space very quickly, and can be used at surprising ranges to keep the opponent in check. This wall splats is completely safe on block at -8, and comes out very quickly relative to its huge range, making it both a solid whiff punisher for situations in which you're not sure if you can connect in time, and just an overall excellent pressure tool. The drawbacks to this move are its linearity, relatively low damage potential since it doesn't do anything special on counter hit, and susceptibility to dedicated keep out moves. But as long as you're not too predictable with using it, this is an excellent space control tool. Once the opponent starts respecting this, you have several options to go on the offensive from mid-screen. Firstly, you can go for the low variation in Albatross down 2, which, despite looking like his down back 2, is harder to react to since it comes out of spin. Like a regular down back 2 or fully crouched down back 2, this is +1 on hit and leaves opponents in crouch, is only -12 on block, and knocks down on counter hit. Unlike those moves though, you can't hold down afterwards to recover in crouch. Alternatively, you can also go for a double Albatross by holding up or down during the spin. The double spin makes the mid-low variations, now accessed with 1 or down 1 respectively, deal much more damage, with the low even knocking down the opponent on normal hit. Their frame data on block remain the same though. You can also use the second spin to bait out keep out moves. Since the timing on this is quite strict, it's generally recommended to only do this against keep out moves with smaller hitboxes that launch on counter hit only. Against keep out moves that launch on normal hit with chunky hitboxes, like Godfist, the risk is not worth it. As mentioned previously, by holding forward during the Albatross spin, Steve will enter peekaboo. This is useful for a surprise entry into peekaboo pressure from mid-range. Albatross can also be cancelled into from flicker jabs, which allows him to quickly close the gap and maintain pressure from flicker. A particularly dirty option is to Albatross in to Steve's down back 3-2. This is a fast and powerful low, which would be amazing if not for its terrible range. However, with an Albatross approach, you can quickly close the distance and mix this up with mids like down forward 1-2 or back 2. Now that we have a better understanding of Steve's stances, let's move on to his top moves.
Round 3.
Back 1 is one of Steve's most iconic moves, and for good reason. It comes out reasonably fast in just 13 frames, results in a huge combo on counter hit, has pretty good range for a counter hitting high of this type. It's also quite hard to sidestep in either direction. All of this makes it an exceptional keep out and panic move to heavily punish opponents who rush in recklessly, use slow moves when at close range, or press buttons when at negative frames. However, beware that since it is a high, it is vulnerable to while standing and high crush moves. All in all, it operates somewhat similarly to a Magic 4, albeit slightly slower but with better range. What really sets Back 1 apart from moves like Magic 4 though, is its ability to cancel into flicker stance by holding back, which makes it dangerous even on whiff, and indeed if a Steve is throwing back ones just outside of range, he's probably trying to bait you into rushing in, so that he can counter hit you with flicker moves. On block, Back 1 is -14, but by holding back to go into flicker, it goes down to -1. Which means that even on block, you have plenty of options. Right Weave 1 will heavily punish opponents who use high strings to fend Steve off, as it can be visually counter hit confirmed to Right Weave 1-2 for a massively damaging combo. 1-2 jab strings usually just result in a punish though, and not a counter hit, so don't finish the string. In this case, hold forward to go into peekaboo pressure. This will also evade most down forward ones and hop kicks, putting the latter into a float state for a juggle. This will lose to most tracking mids, and due to its poor range, simply holding back will give the opponent enough distance to whiff punish. Flicker jab strings will lose to most highs, but will at worst trade with the fastest of mids and tracking moves. A notable exception to this is Feng's back 4. They are very hard to sidestep and backdash. If your opponent has strong counter-hit interrupters, this option is not recommended. But if their game is more focused around whiff punishing, like Mishima's, this is a good option to keep Steve's pressure going. If you're playing on autopilot, back 1 to flicker 1 down 1 will start a combo even if you got the counter hit. And also put hop kicks into a screw state. Flicker back 2 will muscle through jab strings and mids. If they backdashed, it will reset the neutral game. As a high, it can be ducked and also sidestep right, but stepping against Steve is generally a bad idea. Beware that if the opponent did only 1 or 2 jabs, they can recover in time to duck and punish. With all of Steve's powerful evasive and counter-hitting options, many opponents will freeze up, allowing him to duck in for pressure, which also goes under highs. Be careful though, as Steve is completely vulnerable to mids while ducking. So as ever, be sure to condition your opponent, vary your options, and stay unpredictable. Back 1-2 is mainly used to punish moves at -13. It deals solid damage, has good range, and by holding forward leaves Steve at +5 in peekaboo. Though, bizarrely, not cancelling into peekaboo leaves him at +6, which means his down forward 2 will at worst trade with jabs. Note that you can still combo with forward 2-1 even on a trade. Steve can also go into a low mid string that somewhat resembles Law's Junkyard by doing back 1, down 2-1. Unlike Law's Junkyard, due to the myriad of options stemming from back 1, opponents will rarely low parry the second low unless you're being really predictable. The second 2 hits of this string will combo on counter hit, so is a good deterrent against opponents who often try to challenge you after back 1 on block. Although, unfortunately, it doesn't launch anymore like in Tekken 6. Stopping at the low and holding forward is also a good way to get Steve into peekaboo at around +1. The full string is safe on block, and the low is -12, but by going into peekaboo it becomes -10. Due to the pushback on block, this can only be punished by Gigas' crouch jab. Down forward 2, along with back 1, is another crucial counter-hit move with Steve, and just as important to his overall game plan. It is a relatively fast, mid-tracking move at 16 frames, that leads to a combo on counter-hit. By itself, it is punishable at -11, but what really sets it apart is its ability to cancel into Steve's evasive maneuvers, most specifically, ducking. By cancelling down forward 2 into a duck, and then duck cancelling into a crouch guard before naturally shifting into a standing guard, this move is completely safe. The best way to do this is to continue holding down forward after you press 2, and then press 3 or 4 to go into a duck. If this connects on counter hit, confirm into a duck 1 to start the combo. Be sure to practice this, since if you're just autopiloting into a duck cancel every time, you can't combo anymore. But a fully crouched down forward 2 will at least result in some decent guaranteed damage. Down forward 2 to a duck cancel, while safe, does leave you at a fairly major disadvantage though, so the opponent can get a free mix-up on you if they're on the ball. However, down forward 2 into duck is fast, so unless you're being very predictable with it, you'll be able to challenge slower moves like plus on block mids, or lows with Steve's duck cancel while standing 1, which can be confirmed into while standing 1-2 on counter hit, or duck forward 2 for a combo. If you notice the opponent is jabbing after down forward 2, perhaps trying to punish the regular version or just out of habit, you can continue to slip under and punish with duck 2. Though it is recommended that you instead go into a duck cancel, confirm the high, and then punish with fully crouched down forward 2, since duck 2 can sometimes be snuffed out by ongoing strings. If you notice the opponent is freezing up, either go for a while standing 1 fully crouched down forward 1 mix-up, which we'll go into more detail later, or an extended duck mix-up if they're really turtling up. The best thing the opponent can do is keep Steve in check with a quick down forward 1. However, this leaves them at a minor disadvantage, giving Steve exactly what he needs to start his deadly counter hit game. Drawbacks to this move are that its range isn't exactly the best for a mid-range tool, while it can also be too slow to be used at close range effectively. So you'll need to complement this move with strong movement to make it effective. Also, it doesn't have the best vertical hitbox, so it can miss particularly evasive moves. While standing 1 and its extensions are some of the best while standing moves in the game. Coming out in just 11 frames, Steve can heavily punish little low pokes with while standing 1-2. This does 32 points of damage, leaves Steve at +3, and forces the opponent into crouch, meaning if they try to while standing 4, you can back 1 for a big combo. Also, given Steve's approach with ducking, while standing 1 with its speed and range also makes an excellent check, similar to a down forward 1. If you can visually confirm a counter hit, Steve can connect while standing 1-2, even at maximum delay. While standing 1-2 ends in a mid, and so is also good to deter the opponent from retaliating. If the second hit interrupts the opponent for a counter hit, it gives Steve a free down back 2. Beware though that this is unsafe at -13. While standing 1-1 on the other hand is safe, but high and deals less damage. Undelayed, it is a natural combo, and delayed, it only combos on counter hit, but there's no reason to do that when you have while standing 1-2, which deals more damage and gives more frame advantage on hit. Note that while standing 1-2 jails when undelayed, so you need to delay to catch people who try to flash duck while standing 1-1. While standing 1-1 can also be self-cancelled into more ducks for continued pressure, or weaves and sways. Another mid that is useful out of ducking is while standing 2. Though this isn't as fast as while standing 1, it is also safe on block, and on counter hit leads to a full combo. Similar to while standing 1-1, it can also be self-cancelled into evasive maneuvers. From a duck approach, Steve can mix up his ducking mids, duck cancel while standing 1, and duck cancel fully crouched down forward 2, though beware that this is -15 on block, but with some pushback. With lows fully crouched down back 2, or fully crouched down forward 1. Fully crouched down back 2 is the same as a standing down back 2. It's quite slow, so it can be blocked on reaction if the opponent is watching for it, but goes under highs. Compared to previous Tekkens, this doesn't knock down on normal hit anymore, only on counter hit. But it is safer on block at only -12, which means that it can't be launched punished by any character. So on reaction, you should try to low parry it instead. It is recommended that you hold down or down back after connecting with down back 2. This doesn't change the frame data, but leaves Steve in crouch, giving him access to while standing 1. Since the opponent is also forced into crouch, and Steve is at +1, this means he can easily counter hit confirm while standing 1 into while standing 1-2 if they try to while standing 4 in retaliation. If the opponent crouch jabs, this will trade in Steve's favor. Or, alternatively, a riskier but more damaging option is to weave through both. From a ducking approach, Steve can also go for a fully crouched down forward 1, which also goes under highs and is -12 on block. Although this does less damage, it is much faster, meaning you can't react to it. Most importantly, it also automatically transitions Steve into his peekaboo stance at +2. As you would expect from a boxer, Steve's jab strings are some of the best in the game. 1-2-1 in particular is very powerful, both as an offensive and defensive option. It is very fast at 10 frames, and all the hits connect on counter hit for a total of 32 damage, so can be used both as a panic move when he's being pressured, and also to beat out retaliation when he's on the offense. Steve has a lot of options after 1-2-1. It can be cancelled into his evasive maneuvers, such as duck, to quickly slip in. To deter retaliation, you can do 1-2-1-2, which ends in a mid, which although is unsafe on block, can also be cancelled into duck to make it safe, similar to down forward 2. This is particularly dangerous at the wall, since the last hit wall splats. This whole string also has quite a bit of range, so can be used to muscle your way in from a distance. Just be careful for high crush moves. You can also do 1-2-1 down 2, which ends in Steve's down back 2, but this is generally not recommended as it's slow enough to be reactable and quite telegraphed from a string. As well as these options, Steve can also hold back from 1-2-1 to go into flicker at only -1 on block, or hold forward to go into peekaboo to start pressuring the opponent. Steve's 1-1, 1-2, and 1-1-2 are also powerful jab strings, since they can be cancelled into duck to quickly close the distance. 1-1-2 is also surprisingly safe on block for a move of this type, so it can be a decent setup for punch parry. Unlike some earlier games, it also jails on block. 1 down 1 or 1-1 down 1 are high mid strings. They don't combo, even on counter hit, and 1-1 down 1 kind of lost its utility now that 1-1-2 jails. But if you hold back to go into flicker, these strings are neutral on block, making them very useful to set up his fast, powerful counter hits from this stance. If the opponent turtles up, remember you can also instantly cancel flicker into crouch to start while standing mix-ups. Go into duck to start duck cancel or extended duck mix-ups, or go for a flicker throw to catch them off guard. Speaking of fast high mid strings, in Tekken 6, 2-1 used to be like this, and was very powerful since you could hold either forward or back to enter peekaboo and flicker respectively at +3. This was unfortunately changed to a high string in Tekken Tag Tournament 2 with this rather awkward looking animation, but it is still +3, and so is a good option to start Steve's pressure game and bait counter hits. On the downside, it is slightly slower than Steve's other jab strings, coming out in 12 frames. Steve can also deter retaliation by finishing the string with 2-1-2, which ends in a knockdown wall splatting mid. But since this is -11 on block, and you're on plus frames anyway by cancelling into stances, this generally isn't recommended. 2-1 is also Steve's combo starter for back-turned opponents, and after a deep sidestep. Here, 2-1 to peekaboo down forward 2 is guaranteed for a total of 78 damage, which is very good. In the rare situation that only the second hit connects on counter hit, you can connect a flicker back 2 for a lot of damage. Down forward 1 is one of the primary poking and pressure tools for many characters, and Steve is no different, although his string extensions are quite unique. On block, his down forward 1 is -2, which is okay, but he has a lot of options stemming from it. Down forward 1-2 is a mid-high natural combo string, which is good for catching out crouching opponents and as a general poke. Beware though that it does not jail, so can be crouched and launched. And on block is -6, so your turn is effectively over, though a punch parry will catch attempted counter pokes. Down forward 1-2-1 is also mid-high, doesn't jail, and doesn't natural combo, but this is both a good check to stop opponents from pressing buttons, and also to keep the momentum going, since on block, if you hold back to go into flicker, you are at neutral frames, again giving you access to Steve's powerful counter hit options and duck mix-ups. Both of these strings end in a high, however, since they come out with different timings, they cover one another. In order to punish down forward 1-2, the opponent needs to immediately do a while standing move after crouch, which will get hit by down forward 1-2-1 for a combo, though of course, a high crush will beat both. If you see that the opponent is often crouching or crushing after you do a single down forward 1, try another down forward 1-2 straight after, a back 2 for greater risk and reward, or down forward 2 to counter hit slower crush moves. Alternatively, do the down forward 1-2-2 string extension, which ends in a safe mid, though I don't really recommend this as it takes a long time to come out, and the damage potential is low. Even though it does a butt stun on counter hit, nothing is guaranteed. Down forward 1-2-1 can be interrupted by moves that are 11 frames or faster, such as jab strings or magic 4s. If you notice that the opponent is jabbing after down forward 1, you can cancel this into a duck, and punish them with a fully crouched down forward 2. If they freeze up, which is quite common against Steve, start applying your mix-ups from duck. If the opponent is using fast mids like down forward 1 to stop duck approaches, the last hit of down forward 1-2-1 will counter hit any standing move that is 12 frames or higher for a big combo. Alternatively, stepping or weaving after down forward 1 will evade linear retaliation, and jab strings for big potential damage. Another way to beat out fast high retaliations such as jab is with Steve's wide selection of high crushing lows, the best of which is arguably down 2-1. Down 2-1 is an annoying low mid string. This doesn't do much damage, but it is fast and goes under highs quickly. Even when Steve is at -5 to -6, which are frames at which stepping and weaving don't normally work. Both hits are guaranteed on counter hit, even at maximum delay, allowing it to be counter hit confirmed. Though it's usually best to just finish the string, as the first hit by itself is -18. Due to how awkward this string is to block, at least one hit will often connect unless the opponent is really on the ball. Even if they do successfully block the mid, although it is -11, it can be duck cancelled similarly to down forward 2 to make it safe. Since one of the two hits in this string often connects, this causes many opponents to freeze up, giving access to a duck mix-up. Since down 2-1 is so frustrating to deal with, many opponents tend to do a knee-jerk down jab or some other panic move to get Steve off their back. In this case, you can apply the same down jab option select we went over in the stances section. If the opponent insists on pressing standing buttons, down 2-1-2 ends in a high that results in a big combo on counter hit, and is only -2 on block. This can be heavily delayed to bait retaliation. The best way to deal with this string is by low parrying it. And if you're being predictable in how you use it against a skilled opponent, for example after a down forward 1 or at the end of a round, this will happen. You can bait out a low parry though by doing a down 2 into an immediate neutral 1. This results in a fake out mid, which is confirmable even on normal hit into a 2 follow-up. This does exactly the same damage and has the same frame data on hit or block as while standing 1-2. Quarter circle forward 1 is an incredible mid, which is used both for mix-ups when at the wall since it splats, and also the space control in open ground due to its deceptively huge range. By itself, it is unsafe at -10, but when cancelled into flicker, it goes down to -3, which, as well as being safe, allows you to weave through linear retaliation. The biggest drawback to this move is its weakness to sidestep left, but it will catch sidestep right. But if you're using a lot of down forward 2s, which you should be, the opponent won't be stepping much. Also, similarly to Albatross 2, this doesn't do anything special on counter hit, so it doesn't offer much damage potential. Still, its range, speed, and safety make it a force to be reckoned with. One of Steve's weakest areas is whiff punishment, but forward forward 2 goes some ways towards remedying that. It has excellent range, and comes out quickly enough to punish big whiffs on reaction. Also, thanks to its huge hitbox, it can be used to consistently swat out opponents from evasive stances like Relax or Art of Phoenix. Once the opponent is hit by this, they are grounded at Steve's feet, leading to a guaranteed down 1+2 for a total of 36 damage. If the opponent tries anything except staying on the floor though, another forward forward 2 will smack them back down, resetting the situation. Against characters with big hitboxes like Kuma or Gigas, this is guaranteed. If they do nothing, Steve can down back to them on the floor for slightly more damage than down 1+2. Although this is useful at lower levels of play, more experienced opponents may wait for Steve to do a second forward forward 2, then stand up and launch punish. Be careful that on block this leaves the opponent at -13 and in crouch, which means that Kazuya, Josie, and Eddie can launch him. Though against Kazuya, a risky little trick is to try and make him block the forward forward 2 at tip range. His while standing 1-2 will then whiff, allowing you to backdash and get a free juggle with back 2. Of course, the Kazuya could always just while standing 4-4 in this situation. You can also time the forward forward 2 to hit meaty against these characters so that it's only -12 against tech roll. A common setup would be something like Sonic Fang to a deep dash forward forward 2 if the opponent techs. If they try to launch punish forward forward 2 as per usual, you can block it since it's now only -12, so you can feel all smug and clever while you block punish them. Implanting the seed of doubt in the opponent will also do quite a bit of mental damage, and may also make them lose confidence in going for more max damage punishes. Another good whiff punisher is the aforementioned Sonic Fang, i.e. down forward 1+2. This is a very fast mid with excellent range, a solid hitbox, and deals a respectable 28 points of damage.
This is a stupid dope mix.
Not directly at, but near to the wall, this also becomes particularly dangerous as it can wall splat for a combo. All in all, a very reliable whiff punish due to its speed, range, and ease of input, and also a good block punisher for moves with pushback, though beware that on block this is -12.
Round 4.
Down 1 is a fast, high-crushing low poke that leaves Steve in crouch at neutral frames on hit and -13 on block, so can only be launch punished by Kazuya and Josie. Meanwhile, Akuma and Eddie's punishers will hilariously whiff. Overall, it is quite similar to Dragunov's Down 2, except it does less damage, has no special properties on counter hit, and doesn't leave the opponent in crouch, but it is slightly faster. On hit, a while standing 1 will beat any move that isn't a jab or rage art, and fully crouched down forward 1 will lead to peekaboo pressure if they turtle up. While standing 1 will lose to sidestep right, though you can make this harder on the opponent with the string extensions. But fully crouched down forward 1 will catch sidesteps to both directions. A down jab will also beat both options, but this can be heavily punished with low crush moves, or a sidestep to a whiff punisher. While this is overall a very solid low poke, well complemented by Steve's moveset and unique abilities, it is slightly outdone in overall utility and safety by down 2-1. Down back 3-2, as mentioned previously, is an unseeable low that leads to a free albatross down 2 or down back 2 when next to the wall, for a hefty total of 42 points of damage. While this move does sound amazing, especially considering Steve's plethora of lockdown and pressure strings, due to its incredibly poor range, it's only ever useful after dashing up on a very passive opponent, an albatross spin, or most commonly at the wall, where it is very powerful when mixed up with quarter circle forward 1. If the opponent blocks this, you're likely going to get launched. You can sacrifice most of the potential damage and only do the first hit to disorientate opponents. Though since this is -15, it doesn't really matter much against most characters anyway. Should the opponent block the second hit, Steve is safe on block at -7. While Steve's running 2 isn't as dominant as, say, Dragunov's or Kazumi's, it is still one of the better running moves in the game. Depending on the range at which the opponent blocks, it can leave Steve anywhere between +9 and +13, though nothing is guaranteed. While this does sound great, especially when he has that down back 3-2, again, due to its terrible range, this is easily backdashed out of even when at a major disadvantage. Since Steve's throw mix-up is rather weak, and his lows are mainly just used to chip at the opponent, he doesn't really have much of a mix-up. Still, this can be a good way to get in with major plus frames. Just be careful, as with most running moves, it can be easily sidewalked to the left, and actually, this can also be sidewalked to the right. And it's also susceptible to being floated out with a jab. Back 2 is Steve's fastest standing launcher on normal hit at 17 frames. It has poor range, but is useful as a whiff punisher after a successful sidestep. While it does go under jabs in certain situations, the evasive properties are too inconsistent to be banked upon. The combo after this with manual flicker 1 down 1 takes some practice. You can make this considerably easier by using forward 2-1 instead, but the opponent will be back-turned, which means you won't get a splat should you hit the wall. Back 2 also hits very low to the ground, so is useful against opponents with evasive stances like Eddie or Zhao Yu. On block, this is -13. Up forward 2 is Steve's closest thing to a hop kick. Note that Steve's actual hop kick has a terrible vertical hitbox and so fails at its basic intended purpose. Both this and up forward 2 have very short range and are very slow, making them susceptible to being jab floated. But at least up forward 2 has a much better vertical hitbox than before, which means that if you have a solid read on a down jab or a low, you can now reliably launch punish it. On block, this is a little more punishable than most hop kicks at -14. Up forward 1, on the other hand, is your safe low crush option. This is reasonably fast and has surprisingly good range, making it a good option against characters who like to space you out with ranged lows. This can also be used as an alternative ender to combos to spike and do some Okizeme setups. On hit, this leaves Steve at +5 to +7, and although there are special sparks on counter hit, and of course it does more damage, the plus frames are no different. On block, this leaves Steve at -6 at close range, so your turn is effectively over. But this can be a good opportunity for a punch parry or high crushing low. If this is blocked at tip range though, it leaves Steve at -4, allowing him to sidestep or weave through linear moves for big potential damage. This is especially effective because most opponents won't be expecting it. Forward 2-1 is a move that is generally only used in combos. Due to its slow speed, the fact that its input often awkwardly parallels with forward 2, and how it's a non-jailing mid-high string, this doesn't see much use in open play, but still, it has decent range, and if you hold back or forward, you're at +1 in flicker or peekaboo stance, respectively. There is a mid variation in forward 2-1-2, which is very similar to down forward 1-2-2. Due to their sluggishness and lack of meaningful reward on hit or counter hit though, both these mid extensions are best avoided. Back 1+2-1 is a punch parry. This is useful if Steve is at around -5 or more, meaning he can't successfully sidestep or weave anymore, and you think the opponent is going to use a counter poke such as down forward 1 to keep you locked down. On hit, this grants Steve a free grounded down 1+2 for a total of 41 damage. In Tekken 6, Steve used to be able to get a full combo off of this, but that was a little silly, so probably for the best it was removed. Some common uses are after down forward 1-2, down forward 1-2-2, forward 2-1-2, albatross 2 or double albatross 1, 1-1-2, up forward 1 at close range, left weave 2-1, duck 1 or extended duck 1, the second hit of down back 3-2 on block, peekaboo down forward 1-2, and flicker 1 forward 1. Don't get too predictable with this though, as it leaves Steve wide open on whiff. Also do note that lows, special mids, kicks, and elbows cannot be parried. Steve's throw game isn't the best, but he does have some options. Forward 1+2 deals good damage and leaves Steve in a strong position for Okizeme, similar to his flicker 1+2 throw. However, since this throw comes from a forward dash, the 1+2 break is quite telegraphed. Mix this up by instead dashing in and using quarter circle back 2+4 instead, which is a 2 break and can surprise opponents expecting a 1+2 throw. This shares similar Okizeme options with forward 1+2 and flicker 1+2. Chasing the opponent down with a running 2 is also a good idea, as on hit or block they're in a bad situation. It's also worth noting that Steve's standard 2 throw will floor break on the temple stage for a combo, though as a normal throw this is very easy to break as the opponent can press either 1 or 2 to escape. Steve's forward 1+2 string is quite different from Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Forward 1+2 can no longer cancel into peekaboo, but it is significantly faster, meaning that Steve now has a somewhat decent 15 frame Punisher that deals 42 damage. Now, this still pales in comparison to a real launcher like most characters have, but at least it's something. Both hits start with a mid and are a natural combo. Forward 1+2 by itself is -14, but if opponents try to punish, they'll get interrupted by the second hit in the string since it does not jail. This is -13, which can't be normally launch punished by any character, except for a coked up Kazuya player on horse amphetamines. Despite looking like it, this doesn't wall splat, nor does it lead to any guaranteed follow-ups. Also, even though this string is not hit confirmable on block, it's somewhat whiff confirmable. You have a bit of time at the beginning to input the 2. Not enough to react to a block with, but enough to confirm if the opponent whiffed. So it can be a decent whiff punisher. While this does more damage than down forward 1+2, it's not as fast and lacks the range, so is less reliable. Steve's Power Crush in his normal stance is quite unique. Like any other Power Crush, it starts absorbing strikes on the 8th frame, right up until it's active. Steve also takes a step back during the animation, going under some highs in the process. This is a mid, and can result in big damage since it leaves the opponent in a 24 frame stun where they are completely vulnerable, albeit with significant pushback. In open ground, you can do a microdash to a Sonic Fang for 49 damage, or for an easier time, Albatross 2 for 43. Note that these follow-ups will whiff unless the down back 1+2 connected at close range. When next to the wall, you can get in a left weave 1-1 to a wall splat for absolutely massive damage.
For massive damage.
While the reward for landing this increases by the wall, the risk also increases exponentially. Usually this move, despite being minus 18, isn't punishable due to the pushback, but next to the wall, it's easily launch punishable. The reason you shouldn't really use this move though, is because as a power crush, it's simply too slow. This takes 36 frames to come out, meaning that more often than not, the opponent will have recovered before the attack is active. Still though, for style points, that wall combo can be hard to resist.
Round 5.
Put the camera on me! No one can stop me! No one!
Steve's rage art, like Jin and Elisa's, is high and safe on block, but just crouch on activation for a full launch punish. Steve's rage art fills two big holes in his game. First of all, he gets a damaging minus 13 block punisher, and secondly, a scary whiff punishment option with decent range. But, as with all rage arts, this is an all or nothing option. So, if you miss, that's the round. With his rage drive, Steve channels his inner anime and performs a Dempsey roll with down forward 3+4 that continually tracks the opponent while going under highs and auto-guarding mids. You can press 1+2 at any time to start a flurry of natural comboing mid strikes that leaves Steve at +1. This is generally useless though due to pushback. At the wall, it becomes something quite different, but we'll get to that later. The Dempsey roll by itself, which can also be accessed anytime from Flicker or Peekaboo, can be used as a gimmicky way to intimidate and close the distance. Remember to hold down forward to keep Steve in the Dempsey roll. If the opponent is unaware of the auto block, you might get a free block punish or frame advantage. And if they think they can sidestep, just unleash the attack. You could try to bait the opponent to low or throw you, and then catch them out with the Dempsey strikes. However, this doesn't come out immediately unless Steve's head is weaving to his left side. If you press 1+2 while Steve's head is to the right, he'll actually wait until he's shifted to the left before attacking. Due to the very long startup, Steve's rage drive can't be used in combos, and is generally considered one of the weakest rage drives in the game. In open play, it's usually recommended to just hold on to your rage for the damage boost and access to the rage art. At the wall though, it becomes a powerful pressure tool. If the opponent hits the wall from the pushback the rage drive causes on guard, which can happen from quite a distance away, they take a guaranteed 5 points of damage, and are left at -7 at point blank range with nowhere to go. This makes Steve's down back 3-2 and quarter circle forward 1 a true 50-50 mix-up. This can potentially seal the round.
Round 6.
Get out of here. I'll take care of this.
Steve's screw starters are flicker 1 down 1, duck forward 2 or extended duck forward 2, and peekaboo down forward 1-2. Steve's spike moves are while standing 1-2, up forward 1, forward forward 2, while running 2, flicker 1 forward 1, flicker 2, and sway 1. Steve's basic bread and butter, which he gets after counter hit back 1, counter hit down forward 2, counter hit duck forward 2, extended duck forward 2, up forward 2, and down parry is duck 1, down forward 1-2-1, hold back to go into flicker, 1 down 1 to start the screw, dash, and then down forward 1+2. For more damage and wall carry, but with a bit of an execution barrier, do duck 1, down forward 1-2-1, hold back to go into flicker, duck forward 2 to start the screw, extended duck 1, and then a tiny micro dash into Sonic Fang. It's that micro dash which makes this combo so difficult. As we'll see soon, there are easier alternatives to this hard combo, which have either the wall carry or the damage, but never both in one like this does. So it's still well worth practicing the micro dash into Sonic Fang. After duck forward 2 on counter hit, extended duck forward 2, and back 1 on counter hit, you can do extended duck for more damage. With back 1, make sure you start ducking as soon as you land the blow, otherwise the extended duck 1 will whiff. With a minor modification, this is also the staple combo after duck 2 and a close range peekaboo up forward 2. Just replace the duck 1 with a back 2. Also, after peekaboo down forward 2, peekaboo 2 on counter hit, peekaboo down 2 on counter hit, and the last hit of counter hit down forward 1-2-1 if you hold back to go into flicker. Again, just do the staple bread and butter, but replace the duck 1 with a while standing 1. After the last hit of down 2-1-2 on counter hit, do a very short sidestep left before going into the bread and butter. This combo does more damage than even the hard bread and butter, and it's easier to perform since it doesn't require a micro dash. Duck 1, down forward 1-2-1, hold back to go into flicker, 1 down 1 to start the screw, run up, then back 1, hold back to go into flicker, a single flicker jab into Albatross 2. The downside to this combo is that since it ends in Albatross 2, it gives you the least amount of time to go in for a wall combo. We'll explore this in more detail in the wall combo section. Here's a variation on the staple bread and butter that allows you to get some excellent wall carry without having to do the hard combo with the micro dash. Duck 1, down forward 1-2-1, hold back to go into flicker, duck forward 2 to start the screw, duck cancel, dash, down forward 1-2-1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a duck 1. Or alternatively, duck 1, back 1, hold back to go into flicker, duck forward 2 to start the screw, extended duck 1, forward 2-1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish off with a duck 1. Compared to Albatross 2, instead finishing combos with duck 1 gives you plenty of time to dash in and go for a full wall combo. This combo is the same as the hard bread and butter, but isn't difficult at all since it doesn't require the micro dash. Instead, it ends in up forward 1, which spikes the opponent and leaves them right by Steve's feet for some powerful Okizeme options. This combo is particularly useful on the wallless stages. After back 2, which is Steve's main normal hit launcher from standing, you have a few options depending on how confident you are in your execution. The easiest combo is forward 2-1, hold back to go into flicker, 1 down 1 to start the screw, and then dash into Sonic Fang. This combo is slightly more difficult to pull off, but more damaging. Do forward 2-1, hold back to go into flicker, 1 down 1 to start the screw, dash, down forward 1-2-1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a duck 1. The problem with both of these combos is that the opponent is left back turned, so you can't extend your combo if you hit the wall, save for, at best, a Sonic Fang. For this, you will instead need to do this more difficult combo. During the recovery frames of back 2, start buffering in a manual flicker with back 3+4, then immediately do flicker 1 down 1 to start the screw. Then dash, down forward 1-2-1, hold back, flicker jab into an Albatross 2. The manual flicker to flicker jabs will take some practice to get down consistently. This combo is also used after a counter hits duck 1, but the timing on the flicker jabs is much more lenient. Also go into the manual flicker screw after landing counter hit flicker 1 down 1 to forward forward 2 on Forgotten Realm. On the bottom floor, sidestep right after the screw before dashing in to start down forward 1 2 1. It's recommended to finish the combo with a duck 1 for better consistency and wall carry. Here's a variation on the back 2 manual flicker combo which sacrifices some damage for wall carry. After the manual flicker jabs, do a sidestep right into duck 1, then down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish off with a duck 1. If you're using back 2 to whiff punish after a sidestep, after sidestep left, the manual flicker combo won't work, so just stick to the easier forward 2 1 combos. And for the wall carry variation after a sidestep right, you need to now instead step to the left during the combo to realign Steve. After right weave 1 2 on counter hit, peekaboo up forward 2 from a distance, the last hit of flicker 1 down 1 on counter hit, or a floor break on the temple stage with Steve's 2 throw, do down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, duck forward 2 to start the screw, extended duck 1, forward 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a duck 1. Or for 1 point more damage but worse wall carry, you can do down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, duck forward 2 to start the screw, duck cancel, dash, down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a single flicker jab into Albatross 2. With the flicker 1 down 1 combo, sidestep right to realign before doing the down forward 1 2 1. These are also the staples after fully crouched down forward 2, or counter hit down forward 2 if you didn't cancel into flicker. Just replace the down forward 1 2 1 at the beginning with a forward 2 1. Steve's most damaging combo on a back-turned opponent and after a deep sidestep is 2 1, hold forward to go into peekaboo, down forward 2, peekaboo down forward 1 2 to start the screw, dash, down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a single flicker jab into Albatross 2. In some rare situations, when Steve is to the opponent's left and connects a counter hit flicker 1 down 1, he can then pick up with down 2 1, duck forward 2 to start the screw, dash, down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a duck 1. After an extended duck 2, do an extended duck forward 2 to start the screw, extended duck 1, down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, and finish with a single flicker jab into Albatross 2. Now I like this combo, lots of blue stuff, very shiny. On Forgotten Realm, you can get incredible wall carry from this variation to the bread and butter. Duck 1, down forward 1 2 1, hold back to go into flicker, duck cancel while standing 1 2 to start the floor break. On the bottom floor, do an immediate manual flicker to 1 down 1 to start the screw, run in, and then do a Sonic Fang. You can make this easier by replacing the duck cancel while standing 1 2 with a forward forward 2, but you get less damage and wall carry. For other combos, try to hit the wall and then either do a running 2 or, for an easier time, a forward forward 2 to break the floor. At the bottom, do left weave 1 1 to Sonic Fang. Beware that forward 2 1 phases through the opponent here. For 1 point more damage, once you hit the wall, do forward 2 1, hold back to go into flicker while standing 1 2. And once you hit the bottom floor, do a Sonic Fang. Or, for powerful Okizeme, by sacrificing only 2 points of damage, down 2 1 into a duck cancel. After extended duck 1, you can also do a duck cancel to a while standing 1 2 for a floor break. On the bottom floor, go into the bread and butter. Just remember to replace down forward 1 2 1 with back 1. Let's now take a look at Steve's wall combos. Ending combos in duck 1 or Sonic Fang will give you enough time to both dash and do forward 2 1. Remember to input back forward 2 1 after the dash, so as not to get forward forward 2. If you're close enough, you can also just run up and do a left weave 1-1 to Sonic Fang, which is more damaging. If you end the combo in Albatross 2, you have much less time for a wall combo. If you're not in range for a raw forward 2-1, it's recommended to just do dash and a Sonic Fang. Steve's best combo from a far wall splat is forward 2-1, hold back to go into flicker, duck 1+2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and so on. To make this combo easier, try holding down 2 after inputting forward 2-1 to button buffer the 1+2 input from duck before mashing out the 1-2, 1-2s. Alternatively, from forward 2-1, hold back to go into flicker and then do a quick while standing 1-2. This gives you very powerful Okizeme options, with quarter circle forward 1 and down 1+2 being a straight 50-50. From a close wall splat, after quarter circle forward 1 cancelled into flicker, flicker back 2, left weave 1-1, right weave 2, peekaboo forward 2, extended duck 1, the last hit of down 2-1-2, the last hit of back 1 down 2-1, peekaboo back 2, and the last hit of 2-1-2, do left weave 1-1 into a Sonic Fang. After certain moves, you have enough time to backdash into a resplat. These moves are Albatross 2, quarter circle forward 1 without the flicker cancel, and the last hit of 1-2, 1-2. After the wall splat, backdash into an immediate left weave 1-1, and then do any wall combo of your choosing. However, the forward 2-1 combos tend to be more consistent, since double left weave 1-1s often leave Steve 2 off axis to land the Sonic Fang. Steve also has a variety of mini combos which are very important to his game. After counter hit flicker 1 down 1, do forward forward 2, or down back 2 for an easier time, but slightly less damage. The same follow-ups apply after the second hit of flicker 1 forward 1 on counter hit. If flicker 2 connects on normal hit, you can get in a free down back 2, or forward forward 2 against Kuma. On the second hit of while standing 1-2 on counter hit, you can get in a guaranteed down back 2. This also works after peekaboo down forward 1-2. After the last 2 hits, or the last 3 hits on counter hit of peekaboo down forward 1-1, 2-1 connect, you can also get in a down back 2. If the last hit of peekaboo 1-2-1 connects on counter hit, you can get a free peekaboo down 1. After a duck 1, you can get in a forward forward 2. The timing for this is a little tricky, especially on female characters as they tend to have smaller hurt boxes. The trick is though to dash just a little bit before letting loose the forward forward 2. You can also get in a forward forward 2 after flicker back 2 and extended duck 1, but the timing is much easier. A bit more challenging is an immediate duck cancel to a while standing 1-2. This floor breaks on the Forgotten Realm stage for a full combo. Note that this won't work against characters with small hitboxes, nor after a flicker back 2. Most challenging of all is this combo from duck 1+2. This will only work if flicker back 2 or extended duck 1 hit at close range. If the second hit of 2-1 connects on counter hit, it leads to a free flicker back 2 to the follow-ups just mentioned. Sway 1 on counter hit can give a free forward forward 2 or down 1+2. And finally, after a punch parry, Steve can get in a free down 1+2.
Round 7.
Steve's 10-frame Punisher is one of the better ones in the game. It offers solid damage and frame advantage, as well as the option to go into duck mix-ups. His 12-frame Punisher is actually less damaging, but allows you the option of going into flicker or peekaboo at a massive +14. The opponent can still guard though, so nothing is guaranteed. Back 1-2 is a solid 13-frame Punisher. It deals good damage, and has longer range than his 10 or 12-frame Punishers, meaning you have to use this to punish certain moves, such as Brian's down forward 2-3. By holding forward, you can go into peekaboo at +5, but bizarrely, this gives you less advantage than not cancelling at all, which leaves you at +6. Along with Jin and Elisa, Steve is also one of the few characters to have a 13-frame rage art, so he can use it as a punisher. Sonic Fang, despite not being as damaging as many other 14-frame punishers, has excellent range, making it very reliable to punish moves with pushback. It also knocks the opponent down for some solid okizeme with forward 2 tech traps, albatross mix-ups, and instant running 2s. -15 is where Steve's punishment begins to fall behind other characters. Whereas most can launch, he has to just make do with 42 points of damage and a knockdown. Steve's fastest standing launcher is at -17. Even this isn't a true launcher, instead resulting in a stun that demands some tough execution to get the most out of. His next launcher is all the way at -23. Here, he can finally do his bread and butter combo without a counter hit. For crouching punishment, at -10, like most characters, Steve can only get in a crouch jab. His 11-frame punisher though is one of the best in the game, behind only Leo's in damage output. This also forces the opponent into crouch and gives Steve 3 frames of advantage to work with. However, the next punisher from crouching is all the way at -18. This means he can't launch punish many moves that the rest of the cast can. And again at -23, he has access to his bread and butter combo starter.
Round 8.
In some previous entries of Tekken, Steve's safety, pressure, and just general monopoly on buttons was notorious, with at times it seeming impossible to find any openings in the constant barrage of flailing arms. Thankfully, he has undergone some significant changes over the years, and is a more interesting character as a result. With each iteration of Tekken, Steve's safety has diminished, and along the way, he's gained some powerful tools for opening the opponent up. This encourages a riskier, but far more engaging playstyle than before. While it certainly took a few games, he is now a balanced character, capable of both defensive and offensive play, while still retaining his signature emphasis on landing counter hits. Steve's offense is not generally based around mix-ups in open play. He lacks big intimidating lows, and is rarely at a meaningful advantage, but this plays right into his counter-hit baiting and evasive game. With his oppressive, sticky lockdown, Steve can really put the pressure on, and due to his unique evasive options and annoying high crushing lows, opponents may be tempted to use slower mids and tracking moves to get him off their back. This is what a Steve player is waiting for, as it only opens them up to his fast counter-hit highs and damaging string extensions. Once Steve lands a combo, it will hurt. And will also probably take you to the wall. Here is where Steve gains his 50-50s, which are very intimidating to deal with, considering you've already probably taken a lot of damage. One wrong guess could spell the end of the round. Due to his unorthodox design, large move list, reliance on stance cancelling, and lack of regular launches, Steve is challenging but rewarding to play, both in terms of his potential strength as a character and the freedom of expression he affords the player. Overall, Steve does exceptionally well against reckless opponents who love to push buttons, but needs to work hard against defensive players who have a firm understanding of the holes in his strings.
Final round.
Since Steve is a character that thrives on counter hits, he does exceptionally well against players who love to push buttons, but struggles somewhat against more patient players. So be patient. This rule applies to all characters, as Tekken is innately a defensive game based around movement, but especially so against Steve. Make him come to you, and punish his duck approach with mids. Recklessly attacking him will only too often result in a counter hit back 1 or down forward 2 for big damage and wall carry. Many of Steve's best moves are either high, or if they're mid, have high hitboxes, so you can often slip right under his attempts to control the match. Once he starts having to use slower mids, then you can be the one to start counter hitting him with fast highs. Characters like Feng and Zhao Yu are tough matchups for this very reason. Steve's tracking, even outside his homing moves, is generally quite strong, and outside of predictable running 2s, albatross 2s, and quarter circle forward 1s, attempts to step him will generally just get you punched in the face. While Steve does have some good moves with long range, they're not particularly threatening. His main source of damage is from his close range counter punches. Sooner or later he's going to try this, and when he does, be ready with a backdash to a whiff punish. Do note though, that due to Steve's stance cancels, this is easier said than done. Your whiff punish has to be predictive, not reactive, and the faster the better. After a down forward 2 on whiff, always go for a mid punish. Steve doesn't have the ability to launch punish from standing until -17. Even then, the range is terrible. So both on block and whiff, many moves that are normally easily launch punishable are much safer against Steve. A good example is Law's down 2-3. Whereas most characters can launch Law, Steve can only get in 42 points of damage and a knockdown. Take advantage of Steve's inability to launch punish by playing a little more recklessly. Beware though, that his punishment up until -13 from standing is actually quite good. He also has one of the best 11 frame while standing punishers in the game, so be careful with using little low pokes against him. His low punishment starts dropping off tremendously in relation to other characters at around 14 frames though, with his fastest launcher from crouch being a whopping 18 frames. Certain characters, like Katarina and Claudio, can really take advantage of this. Being a boxer, nearly all of Steve's moves are punches. Given his suffocating pitbully playstyle, he will likely be pressing a lot of buttons, and you will likely be blocking a lot. A punch parry can be a great way to disrupt Steve's momentum and force him to think more carefully before he acts. Don't treat this as a get out of jail free card though, as the slightest timing mix-up or miscalculation could result in you getting launched. Reversals can also serve a similar purpose, but start up slower and have less active frames, making them less reliable in general. Parries require some kind of additional input to do the damage, but start up faster and last longer. Law's punch parry is especially notorious though, as similar to Asuka's reversal, it lasts for a very long time. Unlike Asuka's reversal, it doesn't have any recovery, so if you see it, albatross in and peekaboo down forward 2 to elbow. A lot of Steve's slower lows are -12, which aren't particularly punishable. However, these are all slow enough to be blocked on reaction, aside for the low from albatross, which can be mixed up with a mid. If you see these, instead of blocking, go for a low parry. In nearly all cases, this will result in more damage plus wall carry. Similarly, Steve's main low while in peekaboo is only -12, but be careful as he has many fast, powerful mids while in this stance. If you feel you have a good read on the Steve player's tendencies though, by all means go for the low parry. Up forward 3-2 is a highly unconventional low-high string, where Steve jumps in the air and stomps on your feet for a guaranteed albatross down 2. This is launch punishable on reaction since it comes out pretty slowly and the second hit is high. The threat of this move can make some players freeze up and crouch guard when they see Steve going airborne. From here you can apply while standing mix-ups from a normal jump. Though the animation from up forward 3 and a regular up forward is subtly different. Still, in the heat of a match, this can be hard to keep track of. Left weave 1 forward 1-1 is plus on block, but the last hit is always high. You could try to crouch and launch, but due to the flicker cancel at the end, this has to be timed perfectly. So it's generally more reliable to go for an 11 frame punisher here. If you do guard the entire string, be careful not to walk into a frame trap. The second hit of Peekaboo back 1-1-2-1 is always high. Again, you can get in a launch, but your timing has to be perfect so as not to get swatted out by the third hit in the string. So it's recommended to go for an 11 frame punisher. The first hit is launch punishable at -19, but don't try it, since Steve can delay the second hit to bait retaliation, with the last 3 hits being guaranteed on counter hit. Many players tend to press buttons at the end of this string, but take care as when it's cancelled into flicker, it's only -3.
Extra round.
Non c'è spazio per i dilettanti.